Hello, this video is a tutorial on how to orally cite your sources. Hopefully by now you've gathered your 4 sources and you've started evaluating them and deciding how you're going to incorporate them into your oral presentation. So the first thing we want to understand is, when do we cite sources? And our rule of thumb is, anytime the information that you're presenting is not common knowledge to this audience, you need to cite a source for that. So one of the things we understand is that we've done our audience analysis. So our audience analysis says, how old is this audience? What is their ethnicity? What is their level of education? Those are the things that are going to help to determine whether or not your audience understands this as common knowledge. For example, I can say the sun is hot. That's common knowledge to an audience. But if I say the sun is X number of degrees hot, that's not necessarily common knowledge to every audience. It might be common knowledge to one audience, but not another, as we've talked about in the previous video lecture. So anytime you're giving information that would not be common knowledge to an audience, provide a source. When the information being given comes from a source, you need to tell us where that source came from. When the information you're giving is not your own personal knowledge, you need to present a source for that. So one of the things we want to do is we want to look at our oral presentations, our speeches, in the same way that we would look at any written presentation. So I use this as my analogy. For example, if you are writing a research paper for a science class, for example, and you make this statement: the sun is 27 million degrees Fahrenheit hot. And you don't put anything else. You don't put a citation or anything after this statement. You're saying to the reader of this paper, your instructor, that this is either common knowledge or this is information that you got yourself, that this is your own personal knowledge. You've been to the sun and you have measured it. This is an incorrect use of research. In other words, this is not common knowledge, and you didn't get this source yourself by visiting the sun. You got this from a source, and by not giving the source citation, you are plagiarizing. So this is a correct use. If I were writing a research paper for a research class of some sort, and I wrote, research has shown that the sun is 27 million degrees hot Fahrenheit, Jones 24, that Jones 24 parenthetical citation says that the reader can go to the works cited page, look for the Jones citation, and they'll find this particular information on page 24. This provides a way for the reader to validate the information, to know that, hey, this isn't common knowledge. I wasn't supposed to know this. And the writer got this from a source. So anytime you're writing a written research paper, you're going to give those parenthetical citations. Now here's the problem. If I were giving a speech where I'm standing up in front of an audience and I say to them in the speech, the sun is 27 million degrees hot Fahrenheit, and I don't say anything else, the audience is saying, well, that must be common knowledge. I don't know that. So it's not common knowledge to me, but should I know this? Without a source, you're also saying to the listeners of your speech, gosh, I went to the sun and measured it. So this is an incorrect use of research in a speech. Now let's say I make this statement. I say, in my speech, according to research, the sun is 27 million degrees Fahrenheit hot. Jones 24. The problem with this is, by saying Jones 24, I'm saying to the audience, you must know where the Jones citation is, and you must have a page number for that. In other words, they would have a works cited page sitting in front of them, and they're not. So I can't give an oral source citation in the same way that I would a written source citation. So I have to switch it up. I have to give what we call an oral source citation. Your textbook talks about this in the research chapter. So when I'm grading outlines, I'm going to make sure that you have really clear oral source citations. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of a tutorial on how to do that. So if you are giving an oral research presentation, your correct use of an oral citation would be to say something like, according to, You would then give the source for that and then give the statement. The sun is 27 million degrees hot Fahrenheit. Now, this will change depending on the source type that you're using. For example, let's say that information came from a book. Then in my oral citation, I would say, according to the 2013 book, The Wonderful Sun, written by Sam Jones, the sun is 27 million degrees Fahrenheit hot. Notice I didn't put Jones 24, I put the title of the book, the date, and the author. So in your speeches, this is exactly what you're going to say. This is not common knowledge. The entire audience doesn't know that the sun is 27 million degrees hot. So I need to give them a source for that. Then later on, let's say I want to refer back to that same source. Because I've given the author's name, I can simply say Jones also wrote that the sun can vary in temperature by as much as 2 million degrees in a short period of time. I don't have to give you the complete citation because I've already given it to you once. I just now remind you that this is the Jones source. Let's say you're giving an oral research presentation from a periodical. Remember, a periodical is a magazine, newspaper, journal, any publication that comes out periodically. I want to give the date and the title of the periodical. So I would say something like, according to the March 22nd, 2015 issue of Time magazine, the sun is 27 million degrees Fahrenheit hot. Notice I didn't say Jones 24. I need to give the date because they need to know how recent the Time magazine article is. I give the title of the periodical. Notice I didn't give the article title. The article title is just way too much information. We just need the title of the actual magazine or book or periodical or a newspaper that it came from. Again, don't just provide the article title. Give the title of the actual source. This is the title of the magazine, the journal, or the newspaper. Article titles without sources offer little to no credibility. For example, if I gave this article title, Extraterrestrials Discovered in Arizona Desert, depending on the source in which the article appeared, its credibility changes. If I just said, according to the article, extraterrestrials discovered in the Arizona desert, my audience may think, well, gosh, that doesn't sound right. That probably came from the National Enquirer. And if it did, the National Enquirer would be a poor source. But if it actually came from the Journal of NASA Research, that makes that article much more credible. So notice the article title doesn't help us. So don't give article titles. Give the title of the actual magazine or newspaper in which it was published and include the date. Later on, let's say I want to refer back to that same Time magazine article. I could just say, Time also indicated that the sun can vary in temperature by as much as 2 million degrees at a time. Let's say I want to cite a journal article. In this case, I'm going to say, according to the spring 2015 issue of the Journal of the American Medical Association, or JAMA, the sun's heat can cause third-degree burns in a matter of minutes. Now, notice this is a long title of the journal, and I know I'm going to return back to this journal later on in the speech, so I kind of give it an abbreviation. I say JAMA. Because now, later on, I want to refer back to that same journal article, but I don't have to give that entire citation. I can just say JAMA also indicated that the sun can cause the skin to burn even if it's covered by clouds. So the idea of giving your broad source citations first is important. But later on, if you're going to refer back to those sources again and again, just find an abbreviated way to refer back to them. You'll notice this in the sample speeches that I have posted on the Panopto page. So make sure you watch those and listen to how those students are presenting that information. Now let's say you have found some information from a website. This is an incorrect way of citing a website. If you were just to stand up and say, according to sunfacts.org, the sun is 27 million degrees hot Fahrenheit. The problem with this is just because it says sun facts does not necessarily mean it's facts about the sun. We have no idea who put this website up. This is one of those types of websites we talked about in my earlier video that could be published by somebody who's not credible. Anybody could buy a website and call it sunfacts.org. So this will not be counted as an acceptable oral citation. What I do want to give is the entire credentials for the website. So in this case, I might say, according to the official website for the Washington State University Meteorology Department, SunFacts, last updated June of this year, the sun is 27 million degrees Fahrenheit hot. Now what I've done is established the credibility of the website. They know it came from a university. I know the title of the website, and I know when it was last updated. So that later on, I can simply say, SunFacts also stated that the sun is so hot it can burn your skin through the clouds. So just because you found a website doesn't mean you just give the website title. Now, there are some websites that have inherent credibility when you cite them. CNN.com, the NewYorkTimes.com, the CDC.gov. You can say that. But if it's something like, according to the Triton website, right? Nobody knows what the Triton website is, so you're going to have to say, according to the Triton website, which is a website published by the University of Oregon's Space Technology Department. These are the ways that you cite sources. Please go back and read the chapter, watch the sample videos, and re-watch this video so you're not making mistakes, and look at the sample outline that I provide. Now let's say you want to do a personal interview. You've conducted an interview with an expert. This again is an incorrect way. To say in your speech, in my personal interview with Dr. James Smith on October 5th of this year, inform me that the sun is 27 million degrees Fahrenheit hot. The problem here is just because it's Dr. James Smith, we have no idea why he's a doctor, what he's a doctor of, so this is not credible. We have to give more credentials. In this case, in my personal interview with Dr. James Smith, professor of meteorology at Oregon State University on October 5th of this year, now I have all the credentials necessary. Later on, I want to refer back to that same source. I could simply just say, Dr. Jones said. The other thing we want to be careful of is you don't have to always start your source citations with according to, or according to. In the assignment sheet, I've given you a list of alternative ways that you can present research in your speech. So here's one example. In the October 5th, 2015 issue of the journal Nature, it was noted that the sun is 27 million degrees Fahrenheit hot. Notice I didn't say according to. I mix it up. I give it a little bit different language. This is why we write our speeches out completely, so as you're practicing them, you can figure out what sounds the best. It's going to sound so repetitive if every time you offer a source, you open with according to. Here's another alternative way of saying it. The sun is 27 million degrees Fahrenheit hot. I found this interesting fact in the 2013 book, Our Amazing Sun, written by Sam Jones. So play around with the way you cite your sources. Just make sure you give the credentials, the title, the date, everything that's necessary. Now, one thing students always say is, Dave, this speech is going to sound so repetitive and so boring if I'm constantly citing sources. Well, the reality is you have to cite sources. Anytime you give research that, isn't your own information, you have to give sources for that. So the idea that it's going to be boring is beside the point. You can make it less boring. And there are a couple ways to do that. One is mix up those source citations so they don't always start out with according to. The other thing is you can create what we call a blanket oral source citation. Let's say you know all of the information in your first subpoint of your main point comes from the same source. You don't have to keep citing the source over and over again. What you could do is say something like this. The sun is very hot. All of the following information comes from the 2013 book, Our Amazing Sun, written by Sam Jones. Now my audience knows that all the information that comes after that is from that same source, and I don't have to keep repeating that source until I start offering information that came from another source. Here's a good example of how your formal full sentence outlines are going to look. They should be written out exactly the way you're going to state your speech. So notice here, if I do this, excuse me, I'm going to say in a cone cell is a specialized cell embedded in the retina. I'm going to write this out on my outline. I'm going to write, I found in this diagram in the 2011 book, The Biology Bible, written by John Keaton. Don't put parenthetical citations in your outline. Your outline is a script of the speech. So this should be a speech that you are going to give. Remember, a stranger should be able to pick up your speech and give it. So you want to write out those source citations exactly the way they're going to sound. Here's another one. So I'm going to, in my outline, I'm going to write, the May 2012 issue of Physics Today contained this plot, so that every time I'm practicing my speech from my formal full sentence outline, I'm stating those sources. So when you upload your formal full sentence outline to the Canvas page for me to grade, your source citations are going to be written out exactly this way. Here's another, the second page of that sample outline. And again, this is exactly what I've done here. So a useful analogy can be found on the official website of the Washington State University Eye Research Institute, last updated August 15th. And then you're going to give the information. So make sure those sources are written out, and make sure every single time you give information that comes from your source that it is written out. The last thing I want to talk about is the fact that you're also going to include a works cited page at the end of your outline. Every source that you cited, and notice I say works cited, I don't want a bibliography. Bibliographies are everything that you consulted to write your speech, but maybe didn't actually cite. Your works cited page needs to be every article that actually was cited in your speech. So if you cited 4 sources, which is the minimum, you need to have at least 4 citations on your works cited page. You're going to make sure it's in MLA format. And I'm a very stickler about MLA format. Make sure that it is, your first line is all the way over to the left. Then every line after that is going to be indented. So this first line, you're going to put right all the way to the left. Then here, all of these additional lines get indented. So they get indented over, so it looks like this. Make sure that you always have the last name of the author. If there's more than one author, then put both authors. If there's 3 authors, you can simply say at all. So again, go back to MLA. If you're not familiar with MLA, find the MLA tutorials online. If you've taken an English class, English 101 or 102, you've probably learned MLA. The other thing I would like is a hyperlink. What the hyperlink is the direct link to the article. So make sure you find the hyperlink when you do your research and include that at the bottom of your citation. This means I can go directly to that link and find your source. Works cited pages that are missing these hyperlinks are going to get grade reductions. So follow the directions carefully. Make sure it's a hyperlink. So when you copy and paste this in, hit the enter key or return key so that it shows up blue, so it shows that it is a hyperlink. So MLA format, it's important that you're using MLA format. MLA format is always alphabetized by the author's last name or the title. Make sure it's double spaced, that the second line and beyond of each citation are indented, and include that hyperlink for the source. Now, let me go back here. You can copy and paste these citations from ProQuest or EBSCOhost. A lot of times, however, when you copy them and paste them, they're either going to lose their double spacing or they're going to lose this formatting. So you need to make sure you're changing that so that the formatting is correct. So that's our tutorial on how to orally cite sources. So if you are writing your outlines, make sure, one, you're using the sample outline that I put on the module. I have an entire sample outline on there, so there's really no reason that your outline shouldn't look exactly like that. Go back and watch the video on how to gather your sources so you can see where to find your MLA citations on EBSCOhost or ProQuest. Then watch this video that tells you every single time you are citing something that is not a common knowledge to this audience, you need to cite the source for that. Then those sources get incorporated into your outlines, and then you're going to add that works cited page at the end that gets attached to your document when you upload it to the Canvas page. Please watch the sample speeches that are on the Panopto page. These are all great resources for you to get the best grade that you can on these speeches. Don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. Email, text message me, and until the next video, good luck.